There was one distinct moment, though, when my brother was helping my dad up the back staircase, and he was carrying my dad's oxygen tank, and watching them both go up the back stairs. That moment for me was a release of...
For millions of people, he was the perfect father. The moral compass of an entire generation. Michael Landon was the man who brought wholesome family values into our living rooms every week with shows like Little House on the Prairie and Bonanza. He was the steadfast Pa Ingalls, the fiery little Joe Cartwright, and the kind-hearted angel Jonathan Smith, characters that seemed to represent the very best of humanity. His on-screen persona was all about integrity, a deep love for his family, and a quiet strength that could get through any storm. He wasn't just an actor playing a part, for so many, he was those characters. He became a symbol of hope, decency, and the power of family, but for the women who knew him best, his own daughters, there was a different story. One filled with private pain, hidden struggles, and secrets they held on to for years. It was a story that unfolded in the shadows, far away from the bright lights of Hollywood and the adoring eyes of the public. Now, 34 years after his tragic death, they're finally ready to share the truth about the father they knew, and the man the world never really saw. Their emotional stories revealed a loving, playful, and fiercely protective dad they adored, but they also uncover the private battles he hid from the world and a fatal mistake that may have cost him everything. This is the real story of Michael Landon, a tale far more complex, heartbreaking, and human than any script he ever starred in. To truly feel the weight of what his daughters have revealed, you have to remember just how huge of a figure Michael Landon was. Born Eugene Maurice Orwitz on Halloween in 1936, his road to stardom was anything but guaranteed. Before he was Michael Landon, he was a kid from a deeply troubled home, trying to navigate a world of emotional chaos. But with an incredible force of will, he completely reinvented himself. After an athletic injury ended his dream of becoming a javelin star. He was one of the best high school throwers in the nation. He stumbled into acting. He found the name Michael Landon in a phone book, a symbolic fresh start that launched one of the most beloved careers in television history. His big break came with the 1957 cult classic I Was a Teenage Werewolf. It might have been a B-movie, but it showed off a raw, magnetic talent that couldn't be ignored. But it was television that would make him a household name. In 1959, he was cast as the hot-headed, charming Joseph Little Joe Cartwright on Bonanza. For 14 seasons, he was the heartthrob of the Ponderosa, winning over audiences with his rebellious spirit. He wasn't just an actor on the show, either. He grew into a creative powerhouse, learning how to write and direct episodes. When Bonanza finally ended its historic run, Landon didn't just disappear. He built his own legacy. In 1974, he launched *Little House on the Prairie*, the show that would solidify his image as America's favorite dad. As Charles Pa Ingalls, he was the picture of a loving, wise, and resilient father. He was a man who led his family through every hardship with grace and a steady moral compass. The show was more than just a TV show, it was a weekly lesson in kindness, honesty, and what it means to be a family. For a generation of viewers, Pa Ingalls was the father they all wished they had, and Michael Landon was the man who brought him to life. But Landon's vision for uplifting TV didn't stop there. After Little House, he created, produced, and starred in Highway to Heaven, playing an angel named Jonathan Smith sent to Earth to help people. The series took on tough social and emotional issues, but always with a message of hope and compassion. It was the perfect final chapter for the persona he had built for decades, a man on a mission to show the good in the world. He appeared on the cover of TV Guide more than 20 times, a feat that put him in the same league as legends like Lucille Ball. His work was a cultural phenomenon. He was a true pioneer, one of the first actors who also ran the entire show, making sure his vision of family-friendly, moral television reached millions. To the outside world, he was Hollywood's ultimate family man, a beacon of wholesomeness in a cynical business. Behind that perfect image of the loving TV dad was a man shaped by incredible pain. The wholesome world he created on screen was a direct answer to a childhood that was anything but. To understand the man Michael Landon became, you have to understand the tormented little boy he was. His home life was a minefield of emotional chaos. His mother, Peggy, suffered from severe mental illness, and she subjected him to a childhood filled with anxiety and unbelievable cruelty. He later spoke about her frequent, dramatic suicide attempts. Chilling moments where he, as just a young boy, had to be the one to rescue her. In one awful memory, he described how his mother would put her head in the oven and just wait for him to get home from school and find her. On a family vacation, she tried to drown herself, and he had to be the one to pull her from the water, only for her to act like nothing happened just moments later. It was the worst experience of his life, he said. This constant state of fear took a toll on him, both psychologically and physically. He struggled with chronic bedwetting well into his teens, a problem his mother handled with shocking cruelty. Instead of comfort, she would hang the soiled sheets from his bedroom window for all his classmates and neighbors to see, a daily ritual of public shame. This was so deeply scarring that he later channeled the experience into his semi-autobiographical movie, The Loneliest Runner, a brutally honest look at the humiliation he suffered. The torment wasn't just at home. Raised with a Jewish father and a Catholic mother, he was a target for anti-Semitic bullying at school. At home, religion was just another weapon. In a particularly vicious act, his mother allegedly pulled him aside right after his bar mitzvah to sneer that she had secretly had him baptized as a baby, telling him the sacred ceremony was all a big joke. The message he received, over and over, was that he was not safe and not worthy of love. His childhood, as his daughter Cheryl would later say, was one of the most abusive she had ever heard of. He was a little boy who felt completely unloved, and he would spend the rest of his life, as Cheryl put it, creating love for others. That desperate need for control and perfection, born from a chaotic childhood, followed him right into his career. On set, he was known for being a demanding perfectionist. His Little House co-star Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie Olson, said that while he was a great father figure, at work he could be controlling, and he could be mean at times. She believed this behavior came directly from the trauma he survived, saying that no one could come out of a childhood like that unscathed. The cracks in his public image became most obvious in his personal life. The man who stood for family values on TV went through 2 divorces. When he left his second wife, Marjorie Lynn Noe, after 19 years and 5 children to be with Cindy Clerico, a much younger makeup artist on Little House, it exploded into a public scandal. The tabloids called him a Little House hypocrite. The controversy was a sharp, painful contrast to the image he had so carefully built. It was a public reminder that the man who played Pa Ingalls was, like everyone, flawed and complicated. The perfect family man was, behind the scenes, fighting demons from a past he could never truly leave behind. For decades, the full story of Michael Landon as a father stayed inside the family circle. But now, his daughters are finally breaking their silence, painting a picture that is both more loving and far more complicated than the public ever imagined. Their stories aren't meant to tear down their father's legacy, but to show the real man behind the legend, sharing memories of deep love, incredible support, and, ultimately, heartbreaking regret. Cheryl Landon wasn't his biological daughter, but in every way that truly matters, he was her father. Michael married her mother, Lynn Noe, when Cheryl was a little girl and adopted her right away. From that moment, her life changed forever. "I was treated like a princess," Cheryl has said, describing a father who wrapped her in a blanket of love and security. He was her rock, a steady presence that pulled her out of a difficult early childhood. Their connection was so deep that Cheryl even pointed out how much they looked alike, a physical resemblance that reflected their powerful emotional bond. That bond was tested in the most terrifying way in 1973. While a 19-year-old college student, Cheryl was in a horrific car accident. She was the only survivor of the crash, which left her with terrible injuries and in a coma. Doctors told her family the prognosis was grim, that she likely wouldn't survive the night. But Michael Landon refused to give up. He stopped everything, even halting production on Little House on the Prairie for a month just to be by her side. He sat by her bed, talking to her, coaching her, and made a desperate promise to God. He vowed that if Cheryl lived, he would spend the rest of his life making work that would help people and make the world a better place. Miraculously, after 3 days, Cheryl woke up. She later said she had heard his voice the entire time and could even repeat back the words he'd said to her. This traumatic event became a turning point for Landon. He truly believed that his promise was a sacred pact, and it was the direct inspiration for Highway to Heaven years later. He saw the show as him keeping his end of the bargain. Cheryl didn't even know the full story of this promise until she was at his deathbed. When he finally told her, she was stunned, asking, "You made this promise over my life?" His reply was a powerful summary of his life's mission: "We don't know how to love each other, we've forgotten." For Cheryl, her father's love was literally a life-saving force. She has faced a lifetime of health issues from the accident, but she carries her father's unbreakable spirit. She even wrote a book about him called I Promised My Dad, sharing an intimate look at the family man she knew. Her stories paint a picture of a father whose devotion was absolute. Leslie Landon, one of Michael and Lynn's biological daughters, was also incredibly close to her father. She even got to work with him on Little House on the Prairie, playing the schoolteacher Etta Plum. She has warm memories of that time, recalling one scene where her character was dying. Her father, who was directing, got so emotional seeing his real daughter in that situation that he had to cut the scene, completely overwhelmed. For Leslie, driving to set with him every day was like being on cloud 9. He had an amazing sense of humor, she shared, and laughter was always a priority in our home. But now, as a clinical psychologist with a PhD in marriage and family therapy, Leslie has also offered a new, more critical look at her father's life and his death. And this is probably the biggest revelation to come from his children: the painful truth about their father's health. Leslie has spoken frankly about how stubborn her father was and how he tended to ignore his own well-being. "I don't think staying on top of his health was a priority," she explained. "I think you put it aside. He was a man who believed you just push through any pain, a mindset that she now believes cost him his life. This was her father's fatal mistake." In the months before his diagnosis, he had been dealing with severe abdominal pains, but he just brushed them off, even cutting a ski trip short because he felt so sick. He didn't see a doctor until the pain was unbearable, and by then, it was too late. In April 1991, he was diagnosed with inoperable pancreatic cancer. Leslie's reflection on this is heartbreakingly blunt. "I think if my dad were alive today, he would say, 'Boy, I blew it. I really should have been staying on top of my health every year and making sure I was getting full checkups,'" she said in a recent, emotional interview. She understands the mentality of a caretaker, someone so focused on everyone else that their own health gets forgotten. But the lesson from her father's death was a brutal one. "Because we knew how my dad was with his own health, we kids do the opposite," Leslie said. They are all vigilant about their checkups, a direct legacy of their father's tragic mistake. Leslie now uses her platform to advocate for self-care, urging people not to ignore their body's warning signs. Her words are a loving, painful warning born from an unimaginable loss. Jennifer and Sean were the youngest of Michael's 9 children, from his third marriage to Cindy Clerico. Jennifer was just 7 and Sean was only 4 when their father died. Their memories are like snapshots from a child's point of view, playful, magical, and vivid. Jennifer shared a beloved memory of her father turning their backyard into a winter wonderland of pink snow by covering it with strawberry Nestle Quick. "He loved to create adventure for us kids," she recalled. Sean remembers his dad sneaking him candy on their errands, whispering, "Now, don't tell your mother." Jennifer talks about a father who, even though she was little, treated her like an adult. "I felt admired by him, which is an amazing feeling to have as a child," she said. This was a dad who was always present, always fun, and always made his kids feel like something magical could happen at any moment. But their childhood was cut short by a grief that was almost too big to understand. It is devastating beyond comprehension to lose a parent, especially at an early age, Jennifer has said. The loss shaped her profoundly. I can't say how much his death has affected me, but I know it's a significant part of the fabric of who I am. For Sean, losing his dad so young made him stronger and more empathetic. In one interview, Jennifer reflected on the complicated image of her father. She acknowledged that after someone dies, they often get this golden image, but that growing up, she sometimes wished she could hear something shitty about him just to make him feel more real. It's a raw, honest admission about the struggle to reconcile the public icon with the private father. Even now, his youngest children feel his absence every day. They carry on his memory by raising awareness for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, the very disease that took him from them. Michael Landon's death on July 1, 1991, at just 54 years old, sent a shockwave through Hollywood and devastated fans around the world. But his final months were a lesson in courage and humor. He faced his diagnosis head-on, giving an unforgettable final interview on The Tonight Show with his friend, Johnny Carson. He used that time not to feel sorry for himself, but to fight back against the tabloid headlines and to show the world he was going to fight with everything he had. He was calm and cheerful, grabbing onto life with joy until the very end. In his final days, his entire family surrounded him. His wife, Cindy, described the time as intense and incredibly hard. His Little House co-star and surrogate daughter, Melissa Gilbert, remembered visiting him a week before he passed, shocked by how frail he looked. According to Gilbert, Leslie told her that in his final 24 hours, her father saw a light and his own late mother waiting for him, a comforting vision that suggested he was at peace. His last words to his family were simple and powerful: love one another. In the 34 years since he's been gone, that's exactly what his children have done. They haven't let his legacy fade. Instead, they've carried it forward, each in their own way. His creative spirit is alive and well in his sons. Michael Landon Jr. is a successful director and producer, often making the same kind of heartwarming, family-friendly films his father was known for. Christopher Landon has also made a huge name for himself in Hollywood as a writer and director of hit horror films like Happy Death Day and Freakied. The daughters have honored his legacy in their own powerful ways. Jennifer Landon is now a critically acclaimed actress, winning 3 Daytime Emmy Awards and gaining fame for her role on the hit show Yellowstone. Leslie Landon, after a brief acting career, dedicated her life to helping others, earning a PhD to become a therapist. And Cheryl Landon became a motivational speaker and author, sharing the lessons of love and resilience she learned from the father who saved her. Together, the Landon children have made sure their father is remembered not just as a TV star, but as a complex, loving, and deeply human man. The stories they've shared haven't tarnished his image, they've made it whole. By confirming his troubled past and speaking honestly about his flaws and his fatal health mistake, they have painted a richer, more real portrait. We now understand that the perfect life in Walnut Grove wasn't a reflection of his own childhood, but a world he was desperately trying to build, for his audience, for his family, and for himself. The goodness he showed on screen felt so real because it was earned, born from a deep understanding of pain and a powerful desire to turn that pain into love. Michael Landon left behind a legacy that wasn't carved in stone, but in the hearts of millions. He was a television icon whose characters defined decency, integrity, and family. For decades, that was the only story we really knew. But now, thanks to the courage of his daughters, we see the full picture.